Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
Faster than writing to a letter forum, more thoughtful than angry clickbait, able to discuss the world's first superhero and his cousin, in comics, film, TV, and more, it's the Supermaniacs. I'm Fatheree, this is Mike. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I got my new glasses in, which I'm very, very happy with. For people who don't know, these glasses, I posted this on my Facebook, so most people won't know about this. These glasses are the exact make and model that Clark wears in Superman and Lois.
Nice.
And they're super comfortable. They're hella comfortable. I can see why he used them.
And they're fashionable. They look good. So,
Super love them, yeah. Hella
but yeah,
expensive,
it's an important part of your Clark Kent look. No one can know your true secret identity.
though. Yeah, no one can know, especially Kara, who gave up immediately.
But yeah. Speaking of that, we're gonna talk more Supergirl. Good news, it's not the hated Helen Slater movie that no one enjoys but me.
The one
But
that almost made my girlfriend murder me.
yeah,
Cold
almost got my podcast partner killed. So luckily we avoided that, but this week we're gonna jump from the 80s to the 90s and discuss the Supergirl of Superman the animated series.
Yes, we only watched the ones that were part of the Superman animated series specifically, if that makes sense, because the Girls' Night episode is technically a Batman the animated series episode.
Yeah,
People were wondering why we decided not to talk about it.
but I do really like that episode though. But it's like a Batgirl Supergirl team up. It's like, by that point you're getting a little. We're trying to focus more on like Superman and I guess like the super family specific stories. It's
We
like
can always go back to it if there's like a larger, crossover situation later down the line. We can talk about all the crossovers that the DCAU really brought in.
just talking about the DCAU in general. It's something that I know we've discussed a lot. We're both big fans of it, I think, but we've never spent like a lot of time just dedicated specifically to the DCAU. But this is pretty much my favorite depiction of the DC universe outside of the comics. I love the adaptation we got with Bruce Timm and his team, starting way back with Batman the Animated Series in 1992, and everything they did on up through the end of Justice League Unlimited. I guess technically the last thing that's part of that universe was that Legion of Superheroes movie, the Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
No, that was the last thing they ever did that was part of it. And prior to that was a very, very terrible movie called Batman and Harley Quinn or something like that.
That doesn't really count, but
It's so bad. Don't ever watch it, guys. Unless you're into weird fart fetishes. That's a weird fucking movie. God damn.
It is.
Movie.
But yeah, there's a lot of Kara that shows up in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, but there she's just kind of a supporting character. Like her big introduction in Justice League Unlimited was, I think, in that first episode with Green Arrow and her and some other people teaming up on a mission.
Yeah,
And
it's more Green Arrow episodes because it's Green Arrow trying to decide whether or not he wants to even be part of this Justice League type thing. He's a guy who shoots people in the face with boxing glove arrows. He's like, I don't really know if this is for me per se. And then so she's more just like there to be another one of the superhero people that he has to deal with. And like there is an episode about her that's more about her. And it's like one episode in my opinion, which is the one that introduces their weird Power Girl clone.
right,
It's about her having nightmares and all these things, and that by then she's wearing an outfit closer to her current comic book counterpart instead of what she's wearing now, or sorry, not now, but in what we're talking about, which was her current comic book counterpart at that time.
yes. But I should point out, I guess it was probably designed by Bruce Timm himself. I'd be shocked if anyone else did it. But the look of Supergirl that we got in the DCAU, starting off with the white crop top and the gloves look, I really like that look. I was happy at the time when they did finally put her in the standard blue Supergirl suit that we're used to, like when most people think of Supergirl, the suit that comes to mind. But I like that we got to see both versions, with their original creation and then the more traditional.
Yeah, what's fun about this one is the little headband she has as well. It's this little, I forgot, it's like a hair, I forgot what they're called. You know what I mean? That little band that they have.
Yeah,
on
her
I guess.
hairband. Yeah, it's very Gwen Stacy looking.
Yeah, and she doesn't have that in the later stuff because she just doesn't seem to decide to wear it. Because she's still wearing that in the very beginning of Justice League Unlimited, and then just stops using it entirely, like right after that. And I think that might have been, I don't know if that was a mandate or they just realized nobody was paying attention and just decided to swap it. Because you mentioned this off mic, but the team tries to do something and then just goes, is nobody paying attention? Okay, she's just normal Kara Zor at this point. We're just not even going to, like, pretend type of thing.
But I'll leave this picture of her up for our YouTube audience while we discuss. But yeah, should we just dive into the introduction of DCAU Supergirl in the episodes Little Girl Lost Parts 1 and 2? They give her this big two-parter at the end of Season 2.
Yeah. 1 second. Let's just double check it something real quick.
But I can get things started if you want me to talk for a little bit. I guess the episode opens with Superman in his spaceship. They do this thing in Superman the Animated Series that's kind of a Silver Age concept of Superman can get into his childhood spaceship and fly it around to other planets and go have intergalactic adventures. And Superman is in the process of tracing his ship's journey from Krypton to Earth, and he makes it all the way back to Krypton's solar system, and he sees the big kryptonite debris left behind by the planet. But he also picks up a distress call to a planet on the outside of the system, Argo, that they've never brought up before. But
Argo is, I swear, it's always been a thing. It's always been right next door. We borrowed sugar from them all the time.
But yeah, the sister planet of Krypton, as as it is referred to. But on Argo, it was so creepy when he like lands and he's looking for signs of life, and he sees that doll frozen in the ice.
It's super creepy. The other thing I thought was interesting is that the opening is very reminiscent of the scrapped intro to Superman Returns, actually.
That is a good point. I think I thought of that also. But yeah, Superman Returns, and they actually shot it all. Like, I've seen the deleted scene, but yeah, Brandon Routh does the same thing. He flies his ship back to Krypton and finds well, there I guess he doesn't find Argo in a distress call. He just finds like a bunch of kryptonite.
Well, also it took him what, 10 years or something, 5-10 years, whereas Clark's just like, I'm just going for an afternoon stroll, just gonna go hang out over here, take in the sights. But I'm actually very impressed with the ship, because the ship wasn't affected by the sheer amount of a planet-sized amount of kryptonite radiation. Just a stupid amount of it. But yeah, it's great watching him go to Argo. For people who don't know, I'm going to preface this because of the reason why they made Argo City and Argo an entirely new planet. This is during a time frame in the DC universe where the higher-ups of DC are like, there's no Kryptonians other than Superman. We're letting you use those two guys you use, Jax-Sor and Mala, because Jax-Sor is some bullshit nobody gives a shit about. He's not General Zod. It's not Feora or Non or any of those guys. Like, we'll let you have that. You can do your Superman 2, whatever bullshit you want to do. But you can't have Crypto, You can't have a Streaky the Super Cat. You can't have a Super Horse. It's like he's the only fucking dude. Like the end. Like you can't do that. And they're like, okay, well we'll do Supergirl, but we got it. We got an idea. She's gonna be from a completely different planet. She's gonna have different powers. Like they had all this mandates. Like she wasn't going to just be a Kryptonian. They got as much as possible to just not do that.
I kind of like the compromise they came up with in here. I don't know if it was Paul Levitz. I think it might have been Paul Levitz who was the one who was like really policing all the other media. Like no, you can't have any other Kryptonians. We really want it to just be Kal-El as the last survivor, nobody else. But I'm so glad that the TV show decided to do this idea instead of being like, oh, we're just going to do the Matrix thing and make her this shapeshifter alien that's really just pink goo in the form of a cute blonde girl.
Yeah, because there was 2 versions of Supergirl prior to this, outside of actual Kara, which is that there was Matrix, of course, who is as you mentioned, shapeshifting goo that one time got so amnesiac it pretended to be Superman and fly out in the galaxy because it didn't know what to do. And then after that, it met a woman, I think named Linda Danvers, if I recall, and they fused together and became the Supergirl that you're seeing right here, basically. Like this is where that design came from. And she was the 90s Supergirl. And then she became an angel or something. Some weird shit happened afterwards. Like there was a point where she married Clark in an alternate timeline. It's a whole thing. But most people forget she exists because the media, this is the closest anybody ever got to adapting her, that version of her. And so people just assumed that that's what she was too, because nobody was reading comics at that point for some reason. At least nobody nowadays. Like nobody really read Supergirl. I barely understand who she is, type of thing. But this is such a great compromise instead of just making her a Star Labs experiment or something crazy like that. Making another fish out of water, but a completely different fish.
Yeah. But you can still tell pretty much any story you were going to tell with the planet Argo, Kara being the last survivor of this, I guess, like, frozen planet. The thing, like, when Krypton exploded, it knocked this other planet in its solar system out of its normal orbit. So I guess, like, it got, like, cold, but it was, like, total climate disaster.
It got moved away from its sun.
Yeah.
So what happened was that they no longer had the heat that kept everything from, like, it got it's like a post-nuclear ice age, essentially. Except the only difference is it wasn't anybody's fault. It was, except for Krypton, the planet itself.
Krypton blew up so hard it knocked Argo out of their shared Goldilocks zone, where you call that, where you're not too hot, not too cold. You're orbiting just the right distance.
What makes it very tragic is that the Clark finds this message, and they're like, it's been 5 years, so they've been living in this fucking hell zone for 5 years before it became a full Arctic, ice age apocalypse. And meaning Kara is, in fact, way older than Clark is. Like, she is at least... She's got to be at least, like, almost 20 years older than him at this point.
Right, because the explosion would have been, like, 30 years ago, or, whenever this Clark was a baby.
Yeah, so she is... I think this might have been the first time she was straight up much older than her. Much older than him. So maybe this is where they got that idea? At least that's a maybe. Because what I found interesting was the very fact this episode's this set of 2-parters is actually pretty dark, all things considered. Although I read something that says it could have been darker, but the writer was vetoed at making it darker. But what makes it dark is the fact that Clark sees that, like you said, that frozen icicle of a doll, and then what is the name of the mom again? See, I can't even remember her name again. It was
Kala NZ,
which is a wild name, but I feel like they were like, well, we can't make her just Kryptonian. We got to come up with something that isn't just another L. Right. But you can tell that they played around with it enough to try to keep the Z in there and the sort of way that she got her name type of thing, if that makes sense. But the most fucked up part of this entire first part is it shows her freezing herself. She's like, I froze me and my family. I've sent this distress signal out. If anybody can find us, that would be great, basically. And it's that distress signal was sent basically like 25 years ago, if Clark is in his 30s. He gets there, and there's just 3 mummified corpses that they show. They don't walk up. He doesn't walk up and go, "Oh no," type of thing. No, they lovingly zoom in on it and like pan and everything, and you can see like the icicles like jammed in one of them. Like it really shows how they died, and you're just sitting there going, I didn't need to see that. And I guess the censors, they got away with the censors, but like, well, they're mummies. It's not a person.
Yeah. And they're alien. This is just like some weird space thing.
Yeah, alien mummies. And it's just like, okay, cool. I wanted to see the stare of that woman that you just saw the message of into her mummified eyes.
But as just watching this as a friend of this show, or as a fan of the show and a fan of the character Superman in the comics, it's like, okay, I want to see the cartoon get to play with all of the fun toys from the comics. So, okay, his sidekick cousin Supergirl, if they have to do like this weird backwards way to kind of like introduce her in the show in this strange era in which DC Comics won't allow adaptations to do the traditional Silver Age origin, then, so be it. Because after we get through this little opening prologue, there's like a time jump, and then you see Kara in Smallville.
That was kind of one of my only other issues with it, is it yada yadas over like her finding out, her meeting Pa and everything. It's just like, and then she was flying and everything was cool. And also she's drawn very, like, this is going to sound weird because the first episode does this the most, is that she's very Barbie doll shaped in the first part, animation-wise.
Yeah. Again, why
Lois
I think Bruce Timm
weird.
designed her.
Yeah, because even Lois's animation looked a little off. Like, not off, but, like, not the way I'm used to. Like, whoever was animating it was more like, I want it to be Barbie-ish as possible, including Lois. And they're just like, this is weird. And in the second part, they had a different animation team, I guess, because that's closer to what I'm used to in that part. But, yeah, I thought... I really like the flying sequence because it's very similar to what happens in the Helen Slater thing, where she's flying and with all these animals and being like, wee.
Oh yeah, like the geese are like flying in like the V formation.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I like that Clark is just like, stop it.
But it's showing like, oh, she actually adjusted to farm life in Smallville pretty well, and she wears these cute overall shorts and does chores for Ma and Pa.
Yeah, it only plays around with the fact that she survived a very dark apocalypse, like once, basically, in this entire chunk. And it's a good moment for when it's revealed that she still thinks about it. But overall, she's just kind of bored, actually, like more than anything. She's like they start eating at the eating breakfast, I think, and she's just like, well, I want to go fight crime. And he's like, I don't want you fighting crime. You need to get used to being like a person on this planet first before you do anything crazy. And then who was it, his mom or his dad? One of them brings up Intergang. It's just being like, well, you're dealing with that Intergang stuff. And he's just like, fuck, don't worry about Intergang. Kara, you don't need to deal with that. I gotta go.
Yeah, it was something that came up on TV on the news. But they're such like proud parents. They're like, oh yeah, that Intergang, they're bad news. They give our boy Clark a hard time. We don't like them. We don't take kindly to that.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that Intergang just sort of appears again, and nobody seems to question the fact they're very clearly wearing apocalyptic as shit outfits.
Yeah, so if you watch these episodes in order, this is like right, they did like the big two-parter where Darkseid comes to Earth and I guess going to destroy the planet, except Orion and New Genesis steps in at the end. But like right after that big two-parter, then we have like this other big two-parter that also ends up involving Apocalypse and Darkseid and Intergang.
Yeah, it's wild that there's no in-between section. Darkseid immediately is like, I'm going to fuck up this place, like not even 5 minutes later. That's what it feels like. And I think that's just really funny. But yeah, it cuts to Jimmy and Lois at like a science expo or something like that. It's like she calls it the science nerd thing or whatever.
Yeah, an electronics show is what the
And
DCAU wiki calls it.
and she makes fun of the fact that she's like, I don't think these people bathe, which made me laugh.
It's like it's kind of like they're at the convention in Gremlins that the dad goes to, like the inventor convention that he went to.
Yeah, basically.
It's like they're at that.
They like Jimmy's like lamenting the fact that he's like, well, I'm not even really considered a reporter yet. I don't even know if he's considered a junior reporter. He's just photographer Jimmy Olsen. And she's like, well, you got to go find a story because it won't find you. And then, of course, somebody attacks 5 seconds after she says that. And she does make the joke where, like, I stand corrected. They try stealing some electronics. What was found interesting was they had a fire and an ice gun. These two people, and there were no actual cops. They were all like guards, and they all get zapped pretty quickly. But then Superman, of course, shows up to save the day. But they get away purely because he has to save Lois before they can get away. But during the scuffle, it's basically like it's an arcade token falls out of their pocket, because he beats the shit out of them. The fact they walk away from that is pretty impressive, considering.
Yeah, they put up a fight for a little bit with their fire and ice guns, but yeah, they're as we eventually discover, they're using new Genesis weapons technology, but they're also two teenagers, and one of them is a kid because he's voiced by the person who played Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender, who also like shows up in like anything animated. Will eventually hire this person to play a teenager in it at some point.
No, I thought that was the guy who did fucking Goofy's kid in Goof Troop.
Oh, is that who it was?
Oh, I'm looking this up now.
The character, he was called Trouble, right? Their names are Amy and Trouble.
Scott Menville. Let me see what else he's done. Yeah, he does. Where is it? Yeah, he does. Where the hell's? There's a lot of different voices, but it wasn't him then. Apparently. Shit, where is it? Okay, he's Robin in Teen Titans.
Okay. Oh, I think that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's who I recognized it as. It
was Johnny
Robin
Quest
from Teen Titans.
Johnny Quest. He was Red Herring in Pup Named Scooby Doo.
But yeah,
one of those. I thought he was the same guy who did that other voice, but he does quite a few voices on some of the DCAU stuff, because he shows up again as one of the Royal Flush Gang guys, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah, he's Jack, I think. In one of the versions of that.
Yeah, he's been in a few episodes. I think he was Kenny as well in an early episode of Superman or something like that.
He's somebody in Static Shock too, I think.
Yeah, he's known for doing a lot of teenage voices. That's something that he's very good at. But yeah, so these two guys, Trouble and Amy, which is a weird, just very strange to me.
Yeah,
one of them has a normal name and one of them doesn't. They get away. And then after they get away, Jimmy finds this token. He's like, look, I want to figure out what's going on. But while that's going on, Kara shows up to the Daily Planet wearing the combo of the brunette wig and glasses that she tends to have. And I love the little gag where they're like, yeah, your cousin's here to see you. And he's like, my what? And sure enough, she walks up. And he's just like, it's me, Kara. It's just like, I know. He's like, you saw through my secret identity? Immediately takes her glasses off. Gives up within 5 seconds. Which I thought was really funny. But he's just like, for fuck's sakes, I can't have you here. I know you want to help, but I really can't have you here. Like, and she said she didn't fly, because he said she's not allowed to fly in the midday. So she ran there, which I guess doesn't count. which is very funny to me. Hey,
Smallville would approve. The TV 100%. Show.
Yeah, she that's all she had to do was just jump a bunch of times. But yeah, and so he tells her, he's like, well, just stay at my apartment while she's there. She overhears Jimmy saying he wants to go on this hunt for this lead, and she just takes her wig off. She isn't in secret identity mode anymore. She says her name's Karen, which I think is actually Power Girl's secret identity name.
Yeah. Now, they never say Linda at all in, I think, any of her DCAU appearances. I don't think she ever uses the Linda Lee alias.
I think she stays as Kara, or Kara. They say Kara in this show instead of Kara. They pronounce it as Kara. And so I think the implication is she just goes by Kara. Yeah. As her actual name, because that is a real name, even on Earth. People are named Kara. Sometimes, a lot of the times it's with a C, but not with a K. But it's the same thing. And so, I guess the idea is that she's willing to she's able to keep her secret identity by not being what her secret identity is, by hanging out with Jimmy, and they're kind of little sequence.
Yeah, it's kind of smart how they have her and Jimmy meet, because she's fully disguised in her getup as I call it the Linda Lee Danvers disguise, even if no one calls it that, but with the brunette wig, the glasses, everything, clearly she could adopt another alias and go by a different name. And then after Clark kind of shoots down her ideas of hanging out with him in Metropolis and participating in his Superman adventures, she's got half of her disguise off, so she has her blonde hair out, and that is when she encounters Jimmy, and so he doesn't see her as Supergirl at first, but he also doesn't see her in what her, I guess, normal everyday disguise becomes. So
people would have already saw Kara when she showed up. So I guess whoever wasn't paying attention to when a blonde lady showed up all of a sudden.
So it allows her to team up with him he doesn't realize it's Supergirl just yet, but it also preserves her secret identity for in the future. Because I think they're also kind of teasing a Jimmy Supergirl romance, which occasionally has been a thing in the comics. And I don't know, I think that's almost too obvious. They might try to do some reference to it in the DCAU.
Yeah, I'm curious if that'll pop up, because of the fact that Jimmy dates everyone.
Yeah.
Including himself. The man married a gorilla. So that's another story. But he, the two of them go off. They have this little, I would call it an adventure, I guess. They're checking on stuff. They find them, of course, and it turns out, actually, I forgot to mention, because we already know this before this point, which is it turns out that the new Intergang are run by Granny Goodness, voiced by the late, great Ed Asner, who, my God, is so good somehow at pretending to be an old woman, because Ed Asner was the best.
No, I remember watching Superman the Animated Series on an original run, and I was so disturbed as a kid at the voice of Granny Goodness.
Yeah, it started the trend of making Granny Goodness a male voice for a while, and then I think eventually they ended up giving them a normal woman's voice eventually. But Ed Asner did it for years, and he did a really good job at still making it feminine enough that that you didn't think about it too hard. You just assumed it was an old woman, so you just, based on the fact that it's deeper and stuff, because they've been around for so long and they live in a dark, decrepit world. And when they finally find them, she's like, well, I take all these wayward teens and I give them the power to fight society or something, some bullshit reason for why she's giving them powers. But this is the thing that I was mentioning, that these series of episodes could have been darker. According to one of the writers, he pitched the idea that she would use them as material to make parademons. It was the original idea. Which is why she was using homeless teens and stuff like that. But they were
one's gonna miss them.
One of the producers was like, "No, we're not doing that." He's like, "Okay, fine." And so that's why it could have been darker. But luckily they decided to scrap that idea, and instead they were being used. At this point in part one, we don't know. They're just stealing shit. They're stealing electronics. That's all we know about what they're doing, and they're being given heavy weaponry. Of course, Jimmy and and Karen, I'm using quotey fingers, Karen are just like, she's using you. Like, don't you see that? You guys are stupid. And Jimmy doesn't realize they're from Apocalypse just yet. And so Kara gets jumped. And I do mean, like, jumped.
Yeah,
she's fighting back. She's just fucking, they're all over type of thing.
Like 5 inner gang goons just stomping and punching on her.
Yeah, luckily for us, she's Supergirl, and so she breaks out and then just rips off her disguise, and it turns out she's made her own outfit.
Yeah.
She has gloves. She's got this nice tank top with the Superman symbol on it and a cape attached to it.
Just ignoring the fact of, Superman media always ignores how fucking hard it is to hide a cape under your shirt, especially like a little bitty t-shirt like she was wearing. But also, how the fuck do you wear a skirt under your pants like that?
That one was the more impressive thing to me, as well as the gloves, because that means she put on the gloves as she was ripping the thing off. Because she wasn't wearing gloves prior to this point.
It doesn't make sense, but it looks cool. It's like the big reveal of Superman the Animated Series' Supergirl. The first time anyone ever saw this design.
Yeah, and it's a fun little moment. She starts beating the shit out of everybody, of course, because they're all just teens. They don't know what the hell's happening. And then she hits Granny a couple times for very well. She goes down, and then the reveal, of course, is I work for fucking Darkseid. So she brings in the female Furies, the 3 specific ones, which are which ones were they specifically? I'm trying to get their names.
Lashina, the one with the whips, and
Lashina,
Stompa, and Mad Harriet.
There it is. Yeah, and then those 3 proceed to beat the shit out of Kara. Well, not really. She actually puts up a hell of a fight in the beginning.
Yeah. Kryptonians are. I mean, I guess what do you call someone from Argo? Argonians. I mean, like, Kryptonians are fucking strong. Like, I'm just gonna pretend that her dad is actually Zor-El. Like, they never say her dad's name. Like,
I'll get into more about what they tried doing with her outside of the series after we're done. But so she fights them. During this, it turns out Lois and Clark are at a media press event about my favorite part. A comet known as Fleischer's Comet is passing over the Earth to keep them from, and they're just like, it's going to be like, it's super far away. We don't really, we don't have to worry about it. It's just kind of cool that it's showing up, is basically what they're telling them.
Yeah, it's like Halley's Comet, or just, like whatever, like, the rare comet is going to be here in the sky. It's cool.
It shows up every 2,000 years or something like that. I can't remember. But it's like 2 million miles away. They're like, you have nothing to worry about. And then they were saying, it's like, well, that's cool and all. And then an earthquake happens, and it turns out it's because Stompa's attacking. So Clark immediately comes to Kara's defense. I have to say it the way the show says it. Kara's defense. And then he loses purely because he's worried about her. Because, like, they're doing fine, and then Stompa causes more stuff to happen. Jimmy and Amy are fucking useless, by the way. Because Jimmy's like, Amy, you need to help me stop these guys. We're going to grab the fire and the ice gun, and we're going to fight them. He does nothing. When he finally decides to do something, they immediately destroy his weapon, and they're just like, fuck off. And he's just like, okay.
Although I respect Amy as soon as the S crest showed up and it's like, oh man, we're dealing with like Supergirl, Superman. I think I'm actually going to be on their side of this conflict.
Yeah, she's like this. She probably also remembered the apocalyptic war, and she's like, okay, I didn't know that's what this was. I just thought this was like the Shredder Foot Clan shit where I got to smoke cigarettes and play arcade games.
But that's basically what it is. It's basically like the same way that Shredder recruited the kids of New York City in the first live-action Ninja Turtles movie. That is exactly what Granny Goodness is doing in Metropolis.
She assumed it was some normal street-level crime, not like, New Genesis crime.
Yeah, I didn't know we were getting to like New God level shit. That's outside my pay grade.
She's like, I'm just some fucking teenager. And so Amy tries to help. Amy doesn't really do anything during that sequence, but Jimmy does even less than Amy does during that sequence somehow. And so they take Superman because they defeat Superman. Purely, and again, it's purely because he's worried about Kara. Because he's not. They're fighting him, and he's just trying to lift the rubble to get to her, instead of focusing on defending himself. Because otherwise, he probably would have beat the shit out of all three of them.
Yeah, he's not used to having a young teen sidekick, like
so
unlike some of the caped heroes of the DCAU.
Yeah, you think he would just be like, okay, she's probably fine. Instead, he's just panicking. He's like, you shouldn't have been here. Oh God, what's happening? So they capture him, and they take him to Apocalypse, and that's the end of part 1. And it's a hell of a way to introduce. This is the other thing. This is my only other issue with this couple of episodes. It's the same issue I have with I had, ironically enough, with Kite Man, the Kite Man show, which is that you went from 0 to 100 so fast with this character. Because it's one thing to introduce her and then she fights, like Luthor or something like that. You went straight to Apocalypse. Which is what that Kite Man show did too. They went from like Kite Man buys a bar to the anti-life equation. That's 0 to 100, guys. You can't fucking do that.
Yeah, you hit your ceiling. Like, what do you do after that?
Yeah, it's like there's nothing past Apocalypse in the DC universe. At least nothing that's not super stupid, like the Dark Multiverse or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, what the hell's wrong with you people? Don't fucking go to 0 and 100. But that's my issue with is what's happening. Like, it's one thing to fight them; it's another thing to go straight to Apocalypse. And so the second part is them. She finds the mother box that Granny left, because turns out when she hit Granny, she dropped the mother box. And she flies to Apocalypse, or not flies, but boom tubes.
Boom tubes, yeah.
And then immediately just murders a bunch of parademons, and the show treats it as the most triumphant moment this woman has ever had in her life.
Oh, I loved that line that she had to Amy before she left Earth, when Amy was saying something about like this technology. What do you mean it's like from another planet? Or she says something like that, and then Kara says,
like, aliens. It's so weird. It's just like, I'm an alien.
Yeah, she says, I'm from another planet. It happens.
Yeah, it was such a funny, just like, get over yourself, Amy. We're all aliens here except for you and Jimmy, I guess. It's just like, what?
there's a couple of good lines in this episode. I also liked when Superman faces Darkseid and he's asking about Granny Goodness being on Earth. He says something like, "What was this bootlicker doing on Earth?" He has so much disrespect for anyone who follows Darkseid's rule. He just he has no respect for you.
I do like the fact that Superman uses the term bootlicker, by the way. But yeah, they're torturing the shit out of Superman. They're just shocking the hell out of him. And then yeah, like I said, Kara just murders a bunch of parademons. And she does it very creatively though. Like she goes to where this fire pit is and uses like a whirlwind to shoot the fire at these parademons, vaporizing them from existence. And she goes, "Yeah, murder!" And she then flies. That's basically what happens, which cracked me the fuck up, because the DCAU does not give a shit about parademons. They really don't. But she sees how fucked up this world is pretty quickly. While that's happening, Jimmy and Amy are looking around. We then discover that Granny was creating a giant machine. We don't know right away because it looks almost like a cannon type thing. In fact, it looks like something out of a Fleischer Superman cartoon, to be honest, the way it's designed.
Yeah, they named the comet after him, but yeah, I guess they borrow some inspiration. There were multiple Fleischer Superman stories that was just some big brain scientist creates this death ray machine or some big scientific accomplishment that he's going to use for evil, and Superman basically has to break a big machine at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And so while Super goes, flying around trying to find Clark, she runs into these things besides the parademons, of course, and eventually finds them purely because she sees them walk out and carry Clark into the throne room where he does do the great bootlicker line. And it turns out Granny's there on Earth because they're not allowed to attack Earth because of the treaty, essentially, between New Genesis and Apocalypse, which is that, if you attack Earth, you will be at war with New Genesis, and we will fuck you the fuck up.
Which was just established in the episodes before these two episodes.
It's the equivalent of being told that a month ago, and then they immediately were just like, I'm going to figure out how to fuck up all of this. And probably not even. Probably the equivalent of a week. But
yeah. It's
so funny.
As soon as they go back to Apocalypse, Darkseid was like, "Okay, Granny, figure out a way how to crash a comet into that planet so I don't have to deal with them again.
He's like, yeah, I need that planet to fucking go away. And so he's like, yeah, we have a plan. We have a plan to destroy the Earth without it looking like we did it, which is that a rogue comet will have hit the Earth, kind of like what happened to the Saiyan planet, but that was Frieza's fault. So technically, they're both the same thing.
It is very similar, yeah.
And so it turns out the machine is actually like a magnet. What did she call it? I forget what she called it. Hold on. I think I had it written down somewhere.
But it's basically a comet magnet. It's gonna pull the comet closer to Earth.
The magnetic telescope.
Magnetic telescope. Okay. So it's like whatever you look at will be drawn to you. So be careful where you aim that thing. Be careful what you look at with the magnetic telescope.
So they're going to use it to throw the comet at Earth and destroy the Earth with it. Like, because it most likely will do. It'll make like it did what they did with the dinosaurs, which made this giant plum of ash and smoke, and it causes another ice age, and that's how.
Yeah,
that's kind of how.
And then Kara's gonna have to go into cryogenic freezing and be the sole survivor of a planet again.
Yeah, which was I did like that she did react to that, because she's like, I've dealt with this before. I'm not doing this shit again. Unfortunately for Kara, she jumped in without a plan pretty quickly and immediately starts getting her ass beat by Darkseid.
Well, like you said, she went straight to fighting the biggest big bad villain of the DC universe. So.
Yeah, again, you went from 0 to 100 way too fast. This is literally her first outing, and the first thing she does is fight the fucking strongest thing in the universe.
Yeah, like maybe like start with like Livewire or something, like, or I don't know, just like some people robbing a bank or something. But
yeah, something normal, and then work your way up to Darkseid. Not you shouldn't go straight for Mike Tyson, is all I'm saying. You got to play the rest of Punch Out before you get to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, you got to find your Glass Joe first.
Yeah, and it turns out Glass Joe was Granny Goodness, I guess, but then she went straight to Mike Tyson after that. Yeah, she gets her ass beat like immediately, and the Furies start like beating on her too, because she's now weakened by the fact she got fucking Omega beamed. Clark assaults Darkseid right away, but he's tied up to something that will electrocute him very easily, and so Kara, luckily smart enough, rips off the bands from it, and then eventually he's able to get it off, and Granny Goodness is defeated by some quick thinking by making Lashina accidentally hit her scepter, shocking them both. Darkseid's like, ha, you guys may have won this fight, but you're completely fucked because the planet's fucked. And they're like, no, we got it. So they get fight because luckily Lashina had a boom tube controller on her as well. So they use that, or mother box on her, and so they use that to get out. He tries to stop them, but he kind of half-asses it, so they just get away. That's kind of what it felt like, because he's like, I can't be bothered. It's funny because during the fight, it looked more like Darkseid was annoyed. He's like, why are you guys fighting in my house? I don't want. What the fuck? Take it outside or something. Is basically what he looked like. Because he's like doing that thing where his eyes keep like squinting really hard. Because he's like, come on, guys, get the fuck out of here. I did appreciate that, the fact that Darkseid just really didn't. It was just like, this is still beneath me. He never like seriously fights them at this point. So he's just like, oh, fuck it. The thing's still happening. It's fine. And so they get back to Earth. The thing has already started because of the little countdown thing that Jimmy notices reacts. They can't do anything to it, so because Amy gets shocked by it. Because again, Amy being pretty fucking bold. I have to admit, I liked Amy quite a bit.
But Jimmy, like you said, continues to be useless. He gets nothing done. While they were on Apocalypse, he was doing nothing.
No, he was doing nothing. He was like, look at this thing, and that's all he did. He's like, I'm helping. And then Kara shows up, and then like, okay, Clerk's like, okay, I have a plan. And within 5 seconds of her saying that, Kara just yells out Leroy Jenkins, basically, and assaults this thing and destroys it immediately.
I mean, you can't blame her. I was just saying, there were countless old Flesher Superman cartoons where there's some evil big brain scientist made this doomsday machine that then Superman has to go smash. So she's just skipping to the ending, right?
I get it, too. That's the thing. I can't fully blame her. Because that plan would have worked if they had gotten there before that activated. The problem was it had activated by that point, and Clark was just like, fucking god damn it.
Yeah, because he's like, I could have used that to reverse it and push the comet away. But now I'm gonna have to go, I guess, push it away myself. Thanks a lot, Kara. Thanks a lot for the help.
The hard way, hot rod, and then she flies off. He flies off. That's a Transformers joke for you people. He flies off and tries to stop this comet, and he does a pretty decent job at it. He's just having a hard time because it's a big fucking comet coming at you a million miles per hour. But part of it breaks off, and Kara just goes, well, you wanted to save the world, and she flies straight at it, and it explodes. It's never really implied she's in danger. She just flies into it because it's a small piece, and it explodes. And then the day is saved thanks to them, and Darkseid's not happy about that, and he just tells the Furies, okay, I know that Granny is your boss, but I'm your boss's boss, so I need you to beat the shit out of your boss.
That would work too. That would, like, if someone in a command structure did that. Like, everybody has shit that they get pissed off at their boss about. That if you're gonna use that to discipline their boss, like, I think it would be pretty effective, actually.
Yeah, and the screams that she does just as it cuts goes like, oh, they're beating her ass.
Oh yeah, and she's like, hey, not me, not your dear sweet granny. Like she's come on, let's just be girls supporting girls. Like,
yeah, let's go get her nails done or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, Granny, that was the last thing you should have said. Yeah, they beat the shit out of her. It's pretty obvious they did too, because Darkseid, and she can't do anything about it either, because Darkseid would have been like, oh, you're disobeying me now. That's basically what would have happened.
But
yeah, she got fucking punished.
Despite Jimmy not really contributing to anything, he's just kind of there as a witness. He's just there to observe everyone else doing stuff. Everything works out for him in the end.
The thing that cracks me up about this is that Jimmy doesn't once use his camera during his undercover work. The one time he should be just taking photos all day, every day, he just doesn't.
See, he wanted the credit as the writer of the story.
I guess
he's like, someone else can take the pictures this time.
So, but I'm happy for James Bartholomew Olsen, I think is his middle name. I can't remember. I think it's just either way. Jimmy gets the byline. He's now a front page reporter, and Supergirl has now made herself known to the rest of the world in a very nice shot where she lands on top of a skyscraper and does this nice pose that's right here, because that's where this is from. She's doing this pose, and then immediately every other reporter wants to sleep with her, apparently.
Oh yeah, they're all like, oh, Jimmy, is she really as cute as they say?
Just immediately, you're like, she's a teenager, guys. Most of you are grown men.
Yeah.
And immediately we're just like, yeah, I want some of that. You're like, you need to fucking quit it.
Yeah, she's supposed to be comparable to Jimmy's age.
That was another thing I forgot to mention was when Lois is like, dismissing Jimmy. They're just like, well, you talk some sense into him. Clark's just like, I've had enough of teenagers. I don't want to deal with any more teenagers. Teenagers go fuck themselves. It was just so funny to me. But yeah,
but, Clark
has a series of episodes.
Clark has that line to Jimmy at the end about how, oh, by the way, Jimmy, my cousin's in town, and I think the two of you will hit it off. So he's trying to be a bro for Jimmy. He's trying to help him out, set him up with his cousin. Or I guess it's funny that, like, they still, I think, refer to each other as cousin, but I guess it's because they come from sister planets. So it's like, if you live on Argo, the Kryptonians are your cousins.
Well, it's an easy way of having your cover as well, because you can't just be like, oh, this is my long lost sister, by the way. You're like, no, it's just like,
right.
You have to explain. So I think the cover is probably the idea that she's an orphan from within the Kent bloodline or something.
Yeah,
I think I think we have time for Unity, but they explain that they call her the step parents, Ma and Pa.
Yeah. We should talk about Unity, because that's also where you get more of a sense of what her day-to-day life is like. And you bring up a great point, by the way, about how Little Girl Lost, how when it does that time jump from Argo to Kara in overalls flying around with geese on the farm, she would have gone through a massive story. Just like there was like a huge arc there, like the alien girl who comes to Earth, finds out her family and her planet and everything she knew is gone, and then has to adjust to being raised by this kindly couple. There's a whole lot there.
There's so much trauma
Yeah.
to unpack, and having her finding out she has powers, finding out that, you know, not only that she has powers, but the person that saved her is from the planet that caused her whole bullshit to happen to begin with. Like, it's a lot to unpack, but immediately it just goes yada yada yada, and everything. She seems cool with everything, and you're just like, okay, I guess that's how it is.
But yeah, the other real big Supergirl heavy story in Superman the Animated Series is the season 3 episode Unity, which is a kind of a personal favorite of mine.
So Unity is an interesting one because, one, it's a Supergirl one of the few Supergirl episodes in the entire series, and two, it's one of those mixed fan ones because depending on which fan you ask, depends on what they think of it. I personally really like it because of its horror elements.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the reason why some people don't like it, because of its horror elements. But it's a great episode in my opinion, and it stars the late, not late because that makes it sound like he died. It stars the great Stephen Root as one of the main bad guys in it. For people who don't know, Stephen Root is a goddamn legend. He's voiced for years. He's Bill Dauterive in King of the Hill. He's in like every Mike Judge thing ever made. Like,
Yeah,
Stephen
probably
Root is in like everything.
most well known, I think, for Office Space is probably the
Yes, he's Milton in Office Space. Recently, he's in Barry as well, as Barry's like essentially handler. His uncle he's a friend of his dad's and everything. Stephen Root is a fucking legend. He's actually in more stuff now than he's ever been. And so it's always fun when you watch something older and you're like, oh, that's fucking Stephen Root. Because the second he spoke, I'm like, that's Stephen Root. But I digress. We'll start with the actual way the episode starts, though, which is that apparently Kara is in high school. It seems to be the idea in Smallville.
Yeah, but it's not just any typical day. It's the first day of spring break. So she's excited because she's going to go spend her time off in Metropolis in the big city with her cousin. I don't know, maybe go hang out with Jimmy Olsen some more. We find that she has this nerdy redhead guy to hang out with at home, though, in Smallville. But she doesn't seem to like him because he's a big comic book geek.
His name is Owen, which is I'm going to mention later that made me laugh really loud, made me laugh really hard due to a thing she says later on that made me laugh. But she, so she's excited. They're like, we need you to do the chores. She uses her super speed to essentially assault a chicken and a cow.
Yeah.
To get as much eggs and milk as she can before she has to leave.
When
that poor cow.
It's so funny, though, when you just hear, like, the chickens go "Bakak," like, off screen, and then she's standing there with, like, that massive bowl of eggs, and Ma says, Kara, you know that upsets the chickens when you do that. And then Pa's like, I'm glad I didn't ask her to milk the cow. And then you're like, "Roar," and then turn around, she's there like a big bucket of milk, like, oops.
Yeah, that cow got assaulted. That poor fucking cow.
I think that's a good joke, though. This is
That's
stuff
a fantastic joke.
but it's stuff that wouldn't happen on the farm with Clark, and I like that STAS Supergirl, she's not the Helen Slater Supergirl. She's not the Supergirl from Action Comics that we read her first Silver Age appearance a few weeks ago. This is a Supergirl who has like a little bit more attitude. This is a Supergirl who, like, maybe she's a little bit flippant. Maybe she doesn't care about getting all her chores done perfectly, like, you know, good Boy Scout Clark probably would. And yeah, maybe she's gonna rush through some things. Like, you wouldn't do these jokes with Clark.
She's a modern teenage girl. Is what she was. She's not a 1950s, 1960s, or actually probably closer to 1960s. But she's not like a 1950s teenager who's just like, whoa, boy, howdy, I can't wait to live in an orphanage type of thing. She's like, nope, not dealing with that shit. She's just like, she would fit in great even now. Like if she was a teenager in today's like if they in today's TV world. And she's great. She's fantastic in that. And she, it's hilarious that she's forced to take the bus because she's like, I can fly anywhere I want. I can run anywhere I want. It's like, well, we want you to take the bus because we got to keep a low profile. That's how things go. That's when Owen shows up and goes, hey, I brought you some stuff to read before you leave. And it's a stack of comic books. She's like, comic books, because that was the time thing. If this was now, she's like, oh, cool. I can't wait for the next Iron Man movie or whatever. But instead, she goes on the bus, but she sees this Reverend step out. He looks like, as you mentioned, he looks like
he looks like 90s Undertaker. Yeah,
during that time. Reverend Howell is what his name is. We don't know his name yet at this point, but you see him get off the bus, and he's clearly like shady. And he talks to the Kents as she's leaving, but she's like, you know what? It's fine. He's probably just some fucking weirdo. It's probably nothing. And she ends up sitting there, and she starts reading what is basically a Spider-Man comic. She just has spider powers, which instead of Spider-Man. And she's not exactly happy with it. But that's because she has nothing else to do.
But yeah, she's like, spider powers, yuck. It's like, yeah, spiders are, I guess, disturbing and disgusting to most people. Who would think that one of the most popular characters in the world in fiction would be based on spiders?
Exactly. And so she ends up there. She ends up in Metropolis. Does not mention Jimmy once, by the way.
Nope.
In her letter to Pa and Ma. They're like, hey, I've been hanging out with Clark. He's been showing them these places. She's like, she has pizza. There's a Superman cutout that she takes a picture with. And then she's like, I also went to a bunch of events with Lois because, like, she gets to go to all these glamorous events. So it shows her in this nice dress, all this fun stuff. And she's like, I can't wait to see you because she's been there for about a week. And she's going to leave via bus again. And she's like, I don't want to. Clark's like, you'll get to meet people. It'll be fun.
Oh, Don't forget she gets in the big fight with Volcana.
Oh, that's right. She beats up Volcana, which is, I think, the last time you see her for a while in this series. Volcana is one of the few original Superman the Animated Series characters. And I'm happy she got to be used a little bit outside of this. She showed up in Harley Quinn, actually, not that long ago. And so what happens is that she defeats Volcana, and she's like, yeah, I beat up a supervillain. I think that's the only time Jimmy's there because Jimmy's taking pictures of the fight.
She mentions Barbara though in Batgirl because she met the baseball team, the Metropolis baseball team. They made her their honorary Batgirl, and she in the letter to her parents she says, "Wouldn't Barbara be jealous?" So she's also she's outed the Bat family to the Kents
via letter. I'm assuming she already told them though, but.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Barbara knew who Bruce was at that point, but Clark did by that point.
Oh, by this point they know.
Okay.
Because this is after their TNBA stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And so, so she sends that out. So this takes place after Girls' Night Out, basically. And so she sends that out, and she goes on the bus. And as somebody who's taken a bus for long distances, it is the most excruciating thing you can ever do. And she has the same thing that happens, which is just that you hear a bunch of crying babies and stuff, people having conversations you just don't want anything a part of. There's this couple behind her just like, well, I think they're turnips. No, I'm pretty sure they're rutabagas. And they have this conversation for what feels like forever, even though I know it's only like maybe 30 seconds. But it's enough for Kara to just be like, I can't fucking do this anymore. And she gets off of the bus and just runs the rest of the way. And it turns out she's like, 5 miles away from Smallville? So she's not even that far away. And she gets there. She runs into Streaky because most people forget that Streaky's already lives there. He's not a super cat. He's just a normal
Streaky is established in like the second or third episode of Superman the Animated Series.
The only time you see him fly is because Mixie makes him fly at one point.
Yeah.
And so Streaky's there. They're excited to see Kara. And they're just like, because the cat's all purry, but the second the Kents show up, it starts freaking out. And she's like, well, that's weird.
Yeah. And I have a cat freaking out next to me right now.
And so they take her somewhere. They're like, hey, we were going to pick you up at the bus station. And she's like, well, I didn't want to make you guys take your time. It's like, we're going to take you somewhere. She thinks it's like a buffet place or something. And so, like the sirloin stockade, basically.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Pig stew or pig city or something like that? I can't remember what they call it.
But yeah, it's like the equivalent of what the sirloin stockade around here.
Yeah, and so she takes her there. They take her to this tent, this big tent in the middle of Smallville, and she's like, "Is this a circus?" And as she says that, Owen passes by, and he's like super pale, like doesn't acknowledge her, and she's like, "Well, that's weird." And because what I found interesting was the Kents look normal when you first see them, and then through the rest of the episode, they're pale the way everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when she walks into this big booth, and there's this giant creature in the middle, because she meets Reverend Howell at this point. He's explaining, he's like, well, you know, we're here for a new culture or whatever. It's the Unity. He keeps calling it Unity over and over again.
He's basically explained that he's a cult leader and he's here to recruit.
Yeah. She walks in and she finds out there's this giant parasite thing, or a hive mind. It's more of a hive mind than anything. That has taken refuge in Smallville and has taken over the city of Smallville, or the small town of Smallville. And so she's like, well, this is weird. I'm going to go. Walks outside. Revan's like, well, we'll get her. And then she comes back as Supergirl like 5 seconds later. And she's like, oh, my God, it's Supergirl, which means that the hive mind doesn't take memories, it seems. Like, they'll talk about them, but it doesn't seem that the Kents ever told him that, by the way, our son is Superman and our stepkid is Supergirl, which I found very interesting.
Right. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, that's a bit of an issue, I guess. You'd think that would come up.
Surprisingly, it doesn't. But she comes in to save the day. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat you guys up. Real quick before I bring that up, this monster in Unity and stuff. There's one of the Futurama movies uses a creature very similar to this, and that cracked me up.
Yeah, it's like a Bender's Big Score, right? There's a tentacle monster.
There's a big tentacle hive mind monster that eventually...
Or no,
it's
the
similar...
The one after that.
The one after it.
Beast with 1,000 backs.
Yes, and it's a very similar thing, except it's not done for comedy's sake, it's done for horror's sake. And so... It turns out when she starts beating up the Reverend, it causes the rest of the inhabitants to feel what's happening to them. So she's like, oh shit, I've accidentally knocked out Ma and Pa without meaning to. So she takes Ma and she flies off, and the Reverend's like, fuck, she's going to reveal our plans. We need to like probably move up what we were doing. And so she shows up, they bring in Ma, Superman shows up because he's like, okay, I came as soon as I've heard that Ma Kent was here. And the doctors are like, well, she has this big parasite thing on the base of her skull that if we literally can't take it out, or she'll die like immediately. And Ma just, it shows that she's lucid. So they're still there, basically, is the main thing. But they're not sure what to do. So they're still doing a bunch of studies. Kara and Clark feel kind of powerless, but Clark starts doing some experimenting with the thing, and accidentally discovers something while he's looking at it through a microscope using his vision.
He's doing like microscopic vision on top of the the microscope zooms in, and then like he like zooms in more with his microscopic vision.
Yeah, and so it turns out the parasite wakes up Ma. She gets up, attacks the two orderlies that are there. Kara comes back to check up on Ma because she's like, I'm tired of waiting around. And when she walks in, the two guys are now super pale, as is Ma still. And they're like, she's fine. Everything's good. Don't worry about it. And she's like, no, you guys aren't. And she, of course, they've been infected just as much. She realizes she can't fight back without maybe possibly killing Ma on accident. But then Superman pops up and reveals that, hey, the X-rays is the reason why she was lucid, so we need to use our X-ray vision. So they use their X-ray vision as a combat mechanism instead.
Yeah, I like that. I think that was a neat idea.
It was really fun. I really like that that's something they could do, because I remember the other thing I remember forgetting about, which is that used to be how heat vision worked back in the Golden Age. It was just really focused X-ray vision. And so they fly over there. The Reverend's just like, I guess, orders everybody to get in their cars and just spread out and just like take over everything. They're stopped by Superman, of course. They show up, start X-raying everybody as quickly as they can. And then Superman does something that was very strange to me, which is that he just starts beating the shit out of Reverend and doesn't notice that everyone's reacting to it. Because Kara's just like, oh no, they're reacting, and he's like, who gives a shit? He's just beating the shit out of the Reverend.
Because his parents were so violated, it struck a nerve with Clark. His
dad's the one who's reacting. That's what makes it so funny. His dad reacts to the ass beating he's giving the Reverend, and he's just like, who the fuck gives a shit about it? Just continues to beat up the Reverend, who then transforms into an ugly, gross thing.
Yeah, there's some interesting creatures though. There's some neat monster designs. Kind of looks like the last issue of Watchmen at times.
It's got some of that. Some gorgeous animation, by the way, on these monsters. Just really well done. I think it was one of the Japanese studios that did the animation on this one, and it shows because they won a lot of awards for the show. And so the X-ray is not working because it can only do so much. Because it was mostly killing off small parasites. This is like a much bigger thing, and he can't like shoot out a giant version of his X-ray vision at this point. The two of them then go on to basically just murder the shit out of these two things. They Kara throws fire like a gas tank into the main Unity and blows it the fuck up, and then Clark proceeds to fatality the Reverend, but then that doesn't work because it turns out like it's one of those like two-piece things, and they just consistently just beat the shit out of it until it dies. It's like the most brutal thing Clark does in the entirety of Superman the Animated Series, in my opinion. Outside of, of course, what happens at the end of the show. But they go to town on these things, which is funny because the show just decides to pretend that the citizens wouldn't feel any of this because the rest of them just wake up fine after he kills all these things. Because you don't see them actually defeat all of the citizens of Smallville, probably due to time purposes. So the show just goes, yeah, it doesn't happen to everyone, I guess, and just lets them mercilessly kill these things. It's kind of amazing.
But yeah, they definitely tried to dial up his kind of brutality here, and I think that was just because like, hey, you were like messing with my family in Smallville, and I guess he's a little bit more sensitive to that than if you're stomping around in Metropolis.
Yeah, he's very sensitive to that. I forgot the thing that made me laugh though. There's one line that makes me laugh really early on, or not early on, but before this point, where when Kara's like, "We need to stop them. They're gonna kill." They're like, they have everyone. They have Ma, Pa, Owen, and my friends. It's just like, I guess Owen's not your friend.
Well, who the hell are her friends? Like, we never... That is funny, though. Yeah, she made sure to distinguish Owen from her friends.
Yeah, she made sure that Owen was not part of and my friends.
But after they get everything back to normal, and Kara's kind of relieved to be like, oh, we can actually be normal, and it's not going to be boring. I'm going to actually appreciate it a little bit more now. She tells Ma and Pa that she's going to meet Owen at the comic book shop, so... I don't know, maybe he gets a chance after all.
She got into spider powers. Now she's obsessed like I am. But yeah, and then they have a conversation about what the Langs have planted, because it turns out that farm that those couples were talking about was the Langs farm, and they were trying to figure out if they're rutabagas or turnips.
Oh yeah, so we get like a little Lana shout out. I guess Lana's parents are still living in Smallville,
which made me very happy. But yeah, those are the main episodes of the Superman Animated Series show when it came to Kara. I will bring up what I mentioned before, which is that comic book Kara was the only time they tried to differentiate her from a Kryptonian. So because in the DC animated universe, it's eventually revealed that Kryptonite works on her, as well as just like any normal thing that would be a weakness to Clark in general.
Like It honestly, like, almost feels like when you're watching Justice League and Justice League Unlimited that they forgot that they gave her the Argo origin. Because,
she's just Kryptonian.
They call her Kryptonian.
Yeah, and so they just leave it alone. Because the higher-ups stopped paying attention. But in the comics were, I guess, they were still paying attention. So Kara acts a lot differently when it comes to things that are weaknesses to Superman. For instance, Kryptonite in the Superman Adventures does not work on Kara at all. And General Zod is an Argonian, in the Superman Adventures comics.
Yeah. So the comic series that tied into Superman the Animated Series.
Yes, the Superman Adventures was because Batman Adventures was the one that the Batman one had. In fact, Superman shows up in the Batman Adventures before there was ever a Superman Adventures.
Oh yeah, he had long hair.
Yeah, he has this Return of Superman look, and he looks great. He looks fantastic, and he's more detailed the way the show was back then. So that was before they knew they were going to make a Superman show. But so she acts differently in that, and the fact that she is an Argonian. So everything revolves around the fact that she's like, well, I can do this because I'm not Kryptonian, so I don't have to deal with kryptonite. Type of thing. For the most part, her powers are the same. I can't recall her having anything that different. There's it does like her being not weak to kryptonite does come into play a lot because when Zod shows up, she tries to be like, well, I'll just use kryptonite to stop him and Jaxor, and it doesn't work on Zod because the reveal is that Zod is an Argonian just the same way as she was. And then there's an alternate timeline where her and Clark are basically lobotomized into being supervillains. And so the villains try to stop them. And at first they're winning, but then the reason they lose is the fact that Kara is an Argonian and not a Kryptonian. So Metallo's kryptonite heart doesn't work. And so she's able to stop him, as Bizarro and Parasite because of that. So yeah, the comic book version of her, they went all in on her not being a Kryptonian. The cartoon version, they're like, who gives a fuck? Very funny. Very, very funny to me.
Yeah. Because eventually, they end her story talking about her being Superman's cousin. In the JLU episode Far From Home.
Yeah, she goes to it's the Legions of Superheroes episode, or another one of them, because there's a few of those. There's one in the Superman animated series.
Yeah.
But she ends up staying. She gets the ending that Silver Age Supergirl has before she dies, which is that she went to live in the future with Brainiac 5.
I think it's John Stewart Green Lantern and Oliver Queen Green Arrow who went with her. And then at the end, Superman is like, oh, well, tell me about this boy that my cousin decided to stay in the future with. What's his name? And they're like, oh, because she hit it off with Brainiac 5, and that was a big part of her decision to stay there in the future. And so it's like, oh yeah, we got to tell Superman that she's hanging out with a descendant of Brainiac.
That is one of my favorite things about that. But it's a very sweet episode because that episode's a lot. They're like, well, Supergirl is never seen again in her time. They're like, I wonder why that is, and they think she's going to die, but it turns out it's because she decides to live in the future from then on.
But also, she explains that, on my home world, there is a lot of advanced technology, and living on Earth, it's like all the technology is lame. But in the 31st century, it's actually caught up to what I'm used to. So it's
actually really sweet, to be honest. It's a nice ending for her, in my opinion.
That we only got because they got that extra season of JLU that they weren't prepared to make, and they're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do?" And I guess we'll give Kara an ending. That's one of the things we'll do.
Yeah, for people who don't know, that's true. That's why the episode epilogue is the ending of season 1 of Justice League of Unlimited instead of season 2, because season 2 was the actual was where all the dark side finale stuff happens, which is a great finale. I'm happy they got that finale either way, but they really were not expecting to go past that point. It worked out in the end though.
But yeah, and we mentioned the new Batman Adventures episode, but Girls Night Out is a really fun one in which Batgirl and Supergirl team up to go after Livewire, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy.
Yes, it's a very fun episode. Honestly, a lot of the stuff involving Ivy and Harley kind of started in that time frame. Them being people being like, they're clearly just a couple at this point. They kind of just sort of started from there.
Well, they had a team up in Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, but they lived together during the New Adventures Batman. type of thing during that time frame, because it shows them like living together during holiday nights and stuff. So they're like a packaged team a lot throughout that show.
No, they're just roommates.
Yeah,
they were roommates.
Exactly. They're just this packaged team at that point. Like
Yeah.
one of like either Bruce Timm or Dini are just like, this is a great idea, and it's stuck in a way that like I don't even think they expected. So I'm very happy about that. But oh yeah, Supergirl from here on, she had to deal with the apocalypse stuff with Justice League Unlimited, finding out that her trust was broken by Emil Hamilton after what happened during the Apocalypse Now sequence, or not Apocalypse Now, during Legacy. And then a lot happened to her. She had to fight like an evil, more adult version of her.
Yeah, that's another crazy thing to me that is so easy to do in would be so hard to do in live action, but easy to do in animation. But I guess like at that point, she's probably like 18, 19 years old. I know like at the end of Justice League Unlimited, she's 21. It's her 21st birthday when she goes to stay with the Legion. But yeah, just like imagine being like a teenager, but here's like this like, oh, you have to fight like yourself as like a 35-year-old man, but it's like you're still a younger person, and just having like those two characters on screen, it would be so hard to pull that off. With de-aging or something in live action, but in animation, it's really cool to show that story like that.
Yeah, because in live action, a lot of times they would either do makeup on the person, or they would hire an older person, being just like, "This is you in the future," even though they look like nothing alike a lot of the times. So those are some interesting ones. But yeah, her story arc in the DCAU is fascinating, because of the fact that they did so much with her outside of her just being, and then you had some side stories like, no, there is some deep stuff that involves you that affects the rest of the story immensely, and I like the way that the DCAU sets up some of it, not even on purpose, which is what it felt like, but some of it was on purpose. It's just Superman the Animated Series was canceled before the last season they were supposed to get, which was reworked into Justice League Unlimited season with the Cadmus and everything. Because it turns out all that stuff was supposed to be the 4th season of Superman the Animated Series, which I am curious what that show would have been like and what Kara's role would have been in it. Like, I want to see that alternate reality, see what happened there, see what their version of Justice League ended up becoming with another season.
Yeah, and I'd be curious how big of a role Supergirl would have played in another season of Superman the Animated Series, because like they introduced her, but then they bring her back for this episode Unity. Like they clearly seem to think like, okay, we could occasionally just do like a Supergirl story, and then
because by the end of Legacy, they're both just outlaws essentially. Like,
yeah, they're both
even
their
though
names have been tarnished.
Yeah, she didn't do nothing, which is the worst part. It's just like she tried, but that poor girl.
And she was voiced by the same performer in all of her DCAU performances.
Which actor is it?
Nicole Tom.
Oh.
She played Maggie and the Nanny.
Interesting.
And she's in the Beethoven movies. She like the mom in those.
Oh. She looks a lot like a Supergirl actress too. Yeah, she easily could have just been Supergirl.
Okay, she was born in '78, so she's one of the kids in Beethoven.
Oh, okay, I recognize her the second I looked her up. Yeah, she looks like she could have been Supergirl in live action if they had tried to make a show with her. Good for her. Very good for her. Yeah, the second you mentioned the oldest and the nanny, I'm like, oh, I know that.
Yeah, the Beethoven the dog movie, which I don't know if I've ever actually seen those, but
I haven't seen them in a long time. I watched them when I was a kid. That was so long ago.
I might have seen the first one, but I don't think I've seen the sequels. I know they made a lot.
They're pretty awful the more they go on, but that's pretty normal.
But yeah, I like seeing the voice actor continuity in the DCAU. It seems like most of the characters that were introduced in Batman the animated series, would always be the same actor. And it seems like with the Superman the animated series characters, they would always like eventually end up recasting. Which was
Yeah, everyone
annoying.
except for Luthor and Lois.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, of course. Those are the three that stuck around. Oh, and Lobo. Lobo's the only other one because Brad Garrett. I love Brad Garrett. He's amazing. Somehow Lobo was one of the few that stuck around. Yeah, because the voice actress for Lori Petty didn't do it.
They lost Malcolm McDowell, Malcolm McDowell as Metallo.
He doesn't do Metallo because Metallo shows up later down the line as well. Like a lot of the villains show up. The Toyman voice is still the same. That was when
Toyman was the same, but
like when you hear Livewire and Justice League, you're like, oh,
it's so disappointing. It
you
is
didn't
so
even try to
disappointing.
emulate it. You ended up. They just got the girl who plays Hot Girl to do Livewire, and you're just like, you couldn't even get another sassy woman to play Livewire because this is disappointing as hell. And yeah, it's a shame because even Superman isn't even the same between Superman and the series.
And so when you recast Superman, you also have to recast Bizarro because you normally get the same actor for both. But yeah, so at least with Supergirl, they got to keep her. So
yeah, it's a shame that Tim Daly. And it's for a show people don't even know exists anymore. People don't even know he did a version of The Fugitive, like a reboot of The Fugitive show. They have no idea. But everybody remembers Justice League.
Well, to be fair, he probably got paid more doing that live action job than he would voicing Justice League.
But I know he actually has mentioned he's like, I kind of wish I would have done it, but he got to do it. He got to do Superman more after that, so it wasn't like he never did it again.
Speaking of that, by the way, with the other Superman work he did after that, I know you've brought up before the Batman Superman movie, or not Public Enemies, the one that is based
Apocalypse. Yeah.
Okay, Apocalypse.
It's based on the Jeff Loeb Supergirl story.
Yeah, so I don't know in the coming weeks we have before the movie comes out, if we're gonna keep talking about Supergirl. There's Supergirl in Smallville, Supergirl in her own TV show, and then a lot of Supergirl stuff in the comics. So there's like that arc that I guess is kind of her modern origin. Well, I don't know how much of that is still like actually the continuity right now of like this is her origin.
Well, they I mentioned before they solidified it again recently, which was that they fused all three of her origins together. So she shows up as an orphan, is kidnapped by Darkseid, brainwashed by them, which is the Jeff Loeb story. And then of course Superman and them stop them, but her dad is still the New 52 cyborg Superman. So they fused a bunch of them together.
But did like the big kryptonite asteroid still come to Earth that like was bringing her?
I think that was retconned. I think the idea is that the original version of the storyline where she showed up and then then she was put in an orphanage is the original way she came in again. And then I'm guessing the meteor still happened, but it wasn't involving her anymore. And although maybe they retconned that too because now they did the Superman Unlimited giant meteor, kryptonite meteor recently, when they never bring up the fact that it happened before.
Yeah.
So that might have got retconned too.
Huh. Was Lex still president? Did that still happen in the current timeline?
As far as I know, he was still president.
Then how did because that was the end of his presidency. It was like he went crazy and got in the green power suit as like the meteor was like coming to Earth, right?
I don't know because as far as I know, our Worlds at War is still, because our Worlds at War is still canon because Lena's back and she has the Brainiac things in her head. So a lot of that stuff's still canon.
Well,
I'd have to do a little more research on that. But as far as I know, they fused everything together. It's in one of the newer Supergirl. It's in the new Supergirl run where they just go like, by the way, this is just her origin now. This is everything that's happened to her, and so they made sure. So the Argo City stuff still happened, but they mentioned the fact that she was an orphan.
Right, because
in the orphanage.
You have to have Argo City for Cyborg Zor-El.
Yeah, because there's an episode, or not an episode. There's a part of the comic where Superman comes for Thanksgiving or something, and there's a character that doesn't like Clark from the get-go because of the orphanage thing. Because they're just like, well, she showed up, and the first thing you did was throw her in an orphanage. And so they have like bad blood against him because of that reason, which I found really interesting.
Oh, this is an interesting comment in the live audience. Olivia Miller says, I just wish we had one Justice League Unlimited episode where Wonder Woman and Supergirl had the opportunity to be in an episode together. And yeah, I kind of would have liked to have seen them, I don't know, hang out, talk, whatever.
That was an issue I had with a lot of the shows, was that they weren't allowed to, and I do mean weren't, because they weren't allowed to have some of these characters interact without some specific characters being there. The old Gotham City Sirens story is a good example of that. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know Gotham City Sirens with
Paul Dini or somebody, I can't remember specifically. I think it was Dini, wanted to write an episode of Batman the Animated Series that involved just, Black Canary, Zatanna, Huntress, and like a couple other women. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Catwoman, I'm sure.
Like, he wanted it to just be about these women.
Yeah.
And an executive's like, where does Robin come into play? And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it's got to have Robin in it. It's all women. Why isn't Robin in this? Because kids are going to be like, where's Robin?
Yeah, boys aren't going to like that. They're not going to want to buy toys of Poison Ivy and Catwoman. So
that's why there's very few women-centric episodes of the entire DCAU in general. Because there was some executive that was just being like, boys don't want to see women. They want to be manly men. And then they wonder why everybody turned gay. I don't know. Cracks me the fuck up that the argument is like, well, kids don't want to see boys don't want to see women. And it's just like, why? What's wrong with you people?
But yeah, it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like the same thing with like you mentioned Transformers earlier, but with like the Transformers toys, it was like a whole cartoon made just to be a commercial for these toys and get kids to buy these toys. And there were no girl Transformer characters because why would girls buy these toys? These robots that turn into vehicles. Like only boys are gonna want those. So they never marketed it towards girls. And then like today, like all these decades later, it's like, oh yeah, the Transformers fandom is kind of a sausage fest because like, well, why can't we get women into this property? It's like, well, I don't know, because you never tried to market to them before. So
DC has always been bad about that, because you remember that was the Young Justice reason for why they canceled Young Justice. They're like, not enough boys are watching the show. It's all women.
Too many girls are watching.
Too many women in this show watching the show. This is stupid. It's like, what is wrong with you people? You tapped into a market people dream of tapping into, and you went, no, I don't want that. Fuck you guys.
But yeah, Olivia Miller 1388 is also asking what was our favorite Justice League Unlimited episode with Supergirl or about Supergirl. But I would take like her ending with the Legion.
It's either that or the conspiracy one, the one where her and Superman are like checking up on her nightmares, and then it turns out it's a big conspiracy with Galatea, I think was her name.
Galatea, yeah.
Galatea, because I think that's just a great. It's a great episode because she has to deal with just how fucked up the entire thing is.
Yeah, and then Galatea, who's like basically DCAU Power Girl, but created to be the villain of their story. But
yeah, she's an evil Power Girl.
Her and Hamilton kind of have like this. They kind of have like a loving like father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, it's really weird, and I always laugh at the joke of the fact that she's like she has huge tracts of land, I guess is the best way of putting it, compared to normal Supergirl, and the fact that she keeps throwing that in her face for some reason. They're just like, stop it.
She's fully grown and fully developed, whereas Supergirl is might feel a little small in comparison.
It was such a weird thing to like rub in her face, but it was a way of fucking with her insecurities even more. And I'm like, what
weird
is happening?
Thing to rub in her face.
It was very funny, but No, she has some really good episodes in that. She's not really well utilized in the first episode of Justice League Unlimited. And she's not really well utilized outside of those handful of episodes, in my opinion.
Yeah, she's just one of the many background characters they have walking around on the Watchtower station. But
Like, she has a little more when Galatea, attacks the satellite during the Divided We Fall time, like, Cadmus finale storyline.
she does end up with a bit of a friendship. They're kind of like I don't know. They're kind of like uncle and niece, kind of, but with Green Arrow and Supergirl.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about that stuff, because Green Arrow is one of my all-time favorite characters, and his episode, he actually got quite a few Green Arrow-centric episodes in that series, and he's like so well done in that show. But yeah, she's still great. She's such a great character still. The only downside, as you mentioned, is there's just not enough of her. Like, she really, the fact that they canceled Superman after season 3 is kind of tragic, because I guarantee she would have had a lot more episodes in season 4. Like, she would have been a much more centric character, especially with Clark being, a pariah during that time frame. Because a lot of people forget the beginning of Justice League basically says, after basically regaining everyone's trust again, that's when he ends up doing the nukes thing. Because if it was just season 3 and then into Justice League, no one would have trusted him. Like, that entire plot never would have happened.
Yeah. But I don't have much else to say on Supergirl of the DCAU. But I don't know, Mike, what you think we should cover next. But we still have a few more weeks before the Supergirl movie arrives.
I think we should do the Jeff Loeb thing, just because
Jeff Loeb thing?
Yeah, because there's a movie on it, so we can do the movie differences, and 2, it's the most modern of her. It was the reintroduction of Kara Zor-El to the world again. As
not a shape-shifting alien, and actually,
the actual real to goodness Supergirl is now back.
A Kryptonian cousin in the comics again.
A shit ton of Supergirls before that point. There's the one we mentioned. We didn't even mention weird, maybe Clark's daughter from the future Supergirl, who was around that time too. There's a lot of Supergirls that were running around that were just not Kara Zor-El.
Frank Miller invented a Supergirl in his Dark Knight Returns sequel.
There's all kinds of Supergirls that are not Kara specifically. So yeah, I think that would be great to cover, purely because it was her because there's just this giant gap from end of Crisis to mid 2000s, and they finally brought her back. That's huge.
From 1986 until 2000. I was already out of high school when that Jeff Loeb comic came out. It was 2000. It was 2006, I think.
Yeah,
it was so literally 20 years. It took 20 years to do.
That's one of the longest gaps for a main character to not exist.
That's the only guy who had it worse was Barry Allen, I guess.
Yes, and in my opinion, he probably should have stayed dead.
Yeah, I definitely am. I prefer Wally. Wally West is my Flash, but
I prefer Wally. But the other reason is because I don't like what they've done with Barry since he's come back.
I liked the Jeff Johns run when he first came back. I liked. But
I thought it was okay, but that was the start of all the bullshit travel shenanigans.
The thing is they gave Wally West a really good ending before that. After Wally got his wife and kids back, it was his story kind of feels done. So
I'm happy with that though. But Olivia asks a good question though. What our thoughts are on some of the other Supergirls? We'll probably mention more about Melissa Benoist. Or Benoist. I'm not sure I almost said Benoit on accent. Melissa Benoist.
Yeah.
Whenever we decide to watch that one, because that might be what we do after this next one. But the DC Superhero Girl one is a very fun one. I've only seen a little bit of her. A friend of mine loves that show, and he always talks up that character. And I watched some clips of her, and she was a lot of fun. She's more of a tomboyish. What I love is that she's fucking jacked. She's not a Barbie doll skinny like this. She is a muscle mommy.
They lean into the super strength, huh? But yeah, she should be the strongest Supergirl should be the strongest girl. Unless
Yeah.
maybe there's like a a Wonder Woman or Donna Troy situation, but
The DC superheroes girls stuff is amazing. Like one of my favorite things I ever saw of it is that Batman, when he's Bruce Wayne, ups his douchiness up to 11, and he's like a reality star looking guy. It's fucking wild what they do with Bruce Wayne in that universe. It's hilarious.
yeah, I'll have to check that out. I've never watched any of it, but I've heard a couple of people mention that it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it for years, but it's not like easily findable for some reason. So I don't really know how to even find to watch it. So I've never been able to. But I've always heard really funny things, and I've seen a bunch of clips of it, and they were really funny every time I saw it. So yeah.
But anyone who is watching or listening to us, if you have other suggestions for Supergirl stuff, or sometimes we talk about Superman. We've become very Supergirl centric, but yeah, we can talk about Superman stuff too. We have the new season of My Adventures with Superman coming out soon.
Yes, we will talk about that probably closer to when it comes out, because the trailer finally came out. Oh my god, I was so happy when it came out.
But yeah, we'll be excited for that. I guess 10 new episodes of My Adventures with Superman starting next month. Also, on top of the Supergirl movie. So yeah, we're still eating pretty good over here.
I'm so happy we're living in a new Superman age. We're past the dark times.
Yeah,
we're
we've
back.
we've
We're back,
re-entered a
guys.
more civilized age.
Exactly. I've never been happier.
So we'll be talking the Jeff Loeb arc that reintroduced Supergirl out of the pages of Superman Batman. But it's also available as the movie Superman Batman Apocalypse. We'll be talking about that next time. But I don't have anything else to add or...
No, that's all I got. The only other thing I'd say is there's new Lanterns trailer. I would say watch that.
Oh yeah,
There's
it's actually a little bit more sci-fi Green Lantern cosmic-y stuff. A little bit. Like it's still
And
very
we
Earth
see-
show, but
Yeah, and we see that it is connected to Superman now, because Guy shows up for a split second, and it's very funny because he's wearing the exact outfit he wears in the Superman movie in a super serious trailer,
yes,
which makes it very weird.
no, it's the haircut too. It's like you're in
Yeah.
like this the self-serious TV show with the stupidest fucking haircut I've still have ever seen. So.
That's really fun. I'm really happy with it so far, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the show is going to be like based on the new trailer.
Or if we're getting a DCU movie set in space next month. I wonder if there's any Green Lantern references in Supergirl, or maybe like at least someone mentions the Green Lantern Corps.
I hope so. We know that that John's apparently supposed to be in Man of Tomorrow, and we know there's a lot of stuff we just don't know about Man of Tomorrow at the moment. So I'm very excited to see what that all ends up becoming.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So I encourage people to follow us on this journey. We'll be back next week with some more Supergirl talk. But until next time, as always, keep it super, y'all.